In today's video, we continue on with our NHL season preview series. Today, we look at the Calgary Flames as we continue our way through the teams in the Pacific Division. The Flames were a team that sold off a lot of veteran players last year. Will that trend continue? We'll discuss what players are most likely to go, how this team has changed, and what the roster is likely to look like on opening night coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're looking at the season preview for the 24-25 season for the Calgary Flames as we work through our teams through the Pacific Division. Of course, after this, we'll be moving on jumping back to the East, and we're going to look at teams in the Metro Division. Coming up next, all the Atlantic Division teams have already been covered, in case you haven't already seen that here on the channel. Just a quick recap here, how these videos are structured. We're going to take a quick look back at last year, the 23-24 campaign, take a look at some key team stats and results, top scores. We're going to take a look at their cap situation, look at how the team has changed, so their additions and subtractions, notable rookies that might have an impact, any contract extensions that we're likely going to see this year, and then looking at the projected roster to see what to expect this year. So let's first recap the 23-24 season for Calgary. It wasn't a great year. They were in 5th place in the Pacific Division. They finished with a record of 38-39-5 for 81 points. I suspect we're going to see a little different this year. Of course, the team had a lot of their top veteran players for parts of the year. A lot of guys ended up moving on. So when we look at the subtractions, we're looking at players that have moved on since the end of the year. But throughout the last season here, we've seen them move Zadorov, we've seen them move Tanev, we've seen them move Hanifin, we've seen Lindholm. Like, there was a lot of key players that left this team, and they gradually kept getting weaker as the year went on because of it. They scored 253 goals, which was 20th best. They scored 271 goals, which was 23rd best. The power play was at 17.9%, which was 26th. The PK was actually pretty respectable at 80.8 for 9th best. So overall, a so-so year for Calgary, but really, became obvious partway through the season that some of these veteran players did not want to stick around, and it was time to kind of, at least partially go through a rebuild. So because of that, the results were probably a little bit better than they would have been otherwise. And I really think this coming year, you're going to see a whole different approach here from the Flames. The top scorers last year included Nazem Kadri leading the way at 75 points. Sharon Govich, who came over in the Tyler Toffoli trade, had a phenomenal season as well, hitting 30 goals, 59 points. Blake Coleman, 54 points, had a decent year. Mackenzie Weegar and Jonathan Huberdeau, 4th and 5th respectively, with 52 points each. For Weegar, that's pretty good as a defenseman. For Huberdeau, as a former 100-point forward, that's not good at all. Huberdeau has been a major disappointment offensively since coming over to Calgary in that Matthew Tkachuk trade, where the Panthers have gone on to win the Stanley Cup, 2 straight appearances in the finals, and Huberdeau has been nowhere near what he was as a Florida Panther. So not looking good so far. Weegar's been decent, but that trade, it's not aging well for the Calgary side of it. From a playoff perspective, they have missed the past couple of years, 2 years in a row. Of course, 3 seasons back was when they last made the playoffs in 2022, when they lost in the second round after a wonderful comeback. Game 7, overtime win against the Dallas Stars, of course, which was the overtime winner, Johnny Gaudreau. Of course, rest in peace, Johnny. Of course, Calgary will be impacted by that this year as well. Gaudreau has a long legacy in Calgary, and even though he wasn't on the team any longer, past couple of years, I'm sure they're going to be spending many opportunities this year honoring his legacy. So obviously, different impact where he's not, hasn't been with the team for a few years, but yeah, definitely a big loss across the hockey world, and Calgary and Columbus will definitely be impacted the most for sure. Cap-wise, going into the year, they still have lots of space, $19.9 million, so Craig Conroy can choose to weaponize that or do what he wishes to add more pieces to this team if he finds the opportunity. So they're in a great spot cap-wise. Looking at their additions and subtractions, not a huge change. Like I said, a lot of the veterans left during the year, so they don't really come up on this list here. But additional players that left after the season ended include Andrew Mangiapane, AJ Greer, Adam Rajewski's not back, Oliver Shillington didn't re-sign, and of course the big one that we thought was going to happen during the season and happened after. Instead, it was Jacob Markstrom, ended up getting traded eventually to New Jersey. So certainly, a big part of the goaltending and a big part of the team defense no longer there. So, the penalty kill and the goals against, I should say, definitely going to be impacted by the absence of Markstrom. Now, coming into the team, new guys this year, Anthony Mantha is new, free agent forward signing, who had, some down years recently, but rebounded last year. So we'll see if he can continue that. Ryan Lomberg comes over from the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Jake Bean, which is be a homecoming for him, comes as a UFA. Kevin Ball, of course, comes from the Devils. He was acquired in the Markstrom trade. They have Tyson Barrie there on a PTO. They also brought in goaltender Devin Cooley, who's having a pretty good training camp in preseason so far, to add another third goaltender into the mix here to compete with Vladar and Wolf. We'll see where things go. He finished the year last year in San Jose and certainly didn't have too bad of a finish there, so it's definitely worth giving a shot to, no doubt. As far as impactful rookies, I'm not sure really that we're going to see a lot of rookies making their debuts this year. We've seen it a lot, or we may see it gradually, but as far as, Zane Parekh, I suspect he'll end up back in junior. Matvei Gradin, same thing. Will guys like Jeremy Poirier or Ilya Solyov maybe have an opportunity to get some minutes on this blue line? We'll have to wait and see, but I would suspect at least get some games for sure. Looking at players that have the final year of their contract, so they're eligible for extensions, including on the UFA side would be Andrei Kuzmenko. There is certainly some question marks about his future with the Flames. Some are convinced he's going to get moved. Some people think that he may stay. I don't know. I mean, if you look at where the team is heading, they definitely want to keep some veterans, but does it make sense to keep Kuzmenko? If he can find his scoring touch, he may have decent value. So it might not be smart to keep him even if he's playing well. Of course, Mantha comes on a 1-year deal, so he could be eligible in January. Kevin Rooney, Walker Dewar, and Dryden Hunt all eligible for extensions as well. Not sure that the Flames and Conroy are going to be rushing to do those just yet. They could wait. We'll see, but nothing too significant on those, even if they are done. Some RFAs, Matt Coronado, Connor Zary, Kevin Ball, and Brad Pahal, all restricted free agents coming up after the season. So again, some players who may get contracts worked out to extend and be part of this team. I would suspect all 4 players have a very likely chance of getting a deal done and likely extending their stay with the Flames. I mean, really all of them are going to be parts of the future. There's no doubt about that. Just a matter if they get their deals done during the year or does it come after. No big rush when they're restricted. Their projected roster going into the season, like I said, they're going to have 3 goaltenders with Dustin Wolf and Dan Vladar probably having a bit of an edge, but Devin Cooley being in the mix as well. So far, it's early in camp, but all 3 have looked decent in their limited time that we've seen them so far. On the blue line, we do have some veterans, including Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar. You got Jake Bean come in, Kevin Ball, Mir Manov come over last year, Pahal. Those are likely your 6 defensemen that start the year. And then you have some guys, like I said, like Poirier or Solovoyov, like that could have some opportunities. Maybe Yan Kuznetsov may get a few more games. Hard to say. And of course, we don't know if Tyson Barrie's going to be getting a contract or not. He could find his way into that mix as well. But Anderson, Weegar, Bean, Anderson, Weegar, Bean, Miramanov, Ball, and Pahal are likely your top 6, barring some changes there. In the forward group, obviously going to be led by Nazem Kadri, Jonathan Huberdeau, Kuzmenko. You got Coleman, Backlund, Sharon Govich. Those are probably going to be your 6 players, mostly playing in top 6 role. Lomberg, Coronado, Rooney, Pospisil, Zary, Hunt are likely going to make up your list of your 12 forwards, at least most likely. There's always going to be a few rookies in there too that could maybe surprise us. But right now, that's what the roster is looking like to start the year. So as far as the questions facing this franchise, their expectations are, I think you're going to see Calgary go way down compared to last year. Like I said, they want to start the year, see where things are at. They want to talk to some of their veterans about extending or not. It was looking like a lot of them didn't want to. And while they moved a lot of them, then they continued in the offseason, and I think it's going to continue into the season. Like I said, when you look at your veterans, there's speculation that Nazem Kadri would waive for at least a few teams, but he's got full control. You got Uyghur, Anderson, Kuzmenko. They're all possible players you could see get moved. Doesn't mean they're all get moved. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but at least a couple more of them would be pretty likely. So you're going to probably see this team, I don't know if they'll bottom out, but they'll definitely be lower than last year. They'll be near the bottom of the division this year. They're going to get a higher pick. I see them being a bottom 5 or 6 team in the NHL. So they should get a better pick this year than last year, and ultimately start really building this up through the draft. Like, they ended up getting a pretty good player in Zane Parekh, but I suspect that they'll be picking higher and can get an even better quality player on top of that for next year. So at the end of the day, they've drafted well, I thought, in the 24 draft. They get some good players. They got obviously some younger youth that's already kind of worked their way into their lineup. Now we'll see how they fit longer term. But the main stories around this team this year are going to be what veterans get moved. They're going to bottom out, but how far down do they go? Like I said, I suspect they're going to be a bottom 5-6 team. And then on top of that is what youngsters kind of surprise us and maybe take some big steps this year. Those are really your 3 questions. You want to see growth from guys, ideally like Dustin Wolf. You want to see him win that battle amongst the 3 goalies and kind of seize the net. That would be nice to see. Some of your younger guys, like Coronado, you want to see him take a step. Hope Sharon Govich can duplicate last year and maybe take it a step further. And I said, then it's a matter of which veterans move on. Because between Kadri, Kuzmenko, probably not Uyghur, but Rasmus Anderson, one or 2 of those guys are likely going to go, and that's really what this team has to look forward to. So you're going to see the rebuild really take effect this year because you're got the first full campaign without all those guys. Some more guys will go. And then you got more youth coming in. So at the end of the day, it's going to really be about building it from the ground up. They're not going to be all the way down to the bare bones after this year, but they're going to be pretty close. There won't be a whole lot of veterans left, so you got to keep a few. You need some experience around these kids as they go through the process here, learn to be pros and learn to get better. So at the end of the day, the Flames aren't going to have a lot to cheer about, but we hope that their youth keeps things exciting and certainly keeps things interesting and competitive so that we can have some fun games to watch. But for Flames fans, that's really all it's going to be. It's about watching the growth from the young kids and seeing what more assets can be added to this team with some few more veteran trades. So let me know your thoughts and expectations on the Calgary Flames for the upcoming 24-25 season. Where do you see them finishing in the division? And what are the top questions and things to look forward to, do you think, for this team this year? Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.